When it comes to fitness and nutrition, I love the fact that it's completely in my control and I can hold myself 100% accountable and seeing myself make progress. That feeling is so addicting and it creates this voracious cycle and makes me want to do better and better. So I just love seeing real world results.
Well, Zach, thanks so much for doing this, man.
Pleasure to be here. Wanted to do it for a long time.
Yeah, you have some of the best meal pictures I've ever seen on Twitter. And I think that's how a lot of people discover you is from your little, from your apartment window, you'll post these beautiful pictures of steak, eggs, fish, all the stuff you're eating. And so I think I saw one of those pictures maybe like a year or 2 years ago when I had recently gotten on Twitter. And then I saw you and I'm like, this guy's absolutely jacked, low carb guy, great mustache. So the steak pictures led me to you, but then I've really been enjoying just learning from you and all your content on Twitter.
Awesome. That means a lot. It's been fun to share content, just give insight into what I do. And I'm glad it's resonated positively with a lot of people and proven to be pretty helpful and entertaining at the least.
Yeah. It's when we were saying off camera, it's pretty incredible what you can build off of social media, because I think you had said you were just looking to get on Twitter just to connect with some other people in the fitness space and almost like unintentionally built out your account and your brand, right?
Yeah, 100%. So to, expand on that a bit, I had never planned on my Twitter account or X account growing as big as it did. I had a personal account that I wasn't really enjoying using because there was a lot of, let's say, bad football and political takes that didn't add value to my life. And one day I signed back in to get some college football updates. Saw some cool tweets that made it into my timeline. I don't know how, from some cool fitness and nutrition accounts. Decided, hey, I'll start my own and, maybe interact with people in a different community that I've never met before. And started doing that. All of a sudden it resonated, it grew, and it's been a very nice community to be a part of.
That's awesome. What's your most controversial football take?
Oh, man. I don't really know. I'm trying to think of one. I'll just say I think Tom Brady is the greatest player of all time. Whenever you speak to the greats, there are a lot of heated opinions, and it's very hard to compare positions in football because I was a D tackle, which is incredibly different than a quarterback, which is different than a defensive back, which is different than a punter. But all things considered, if you had to ask me the greatest player, because people like to speak about that, I'm going to go with Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. I agree with you. So not that controversial to me, but so you, speaking of football, so you played, you were defensive tackle at USC and you graduated in 2012, right?
Correct.
How was that overall experience just playing at that level with that tradition and the program and everything like that?
To say it was amazing is what I'd like to say, but that's really an understatement, and I can't put it into words because I grew up in Southern California, so USC was my dream school to go to. I still get chills when I hear the fight song. I was incredibly blessed to get that opportunity to play there, and it was just surreal every other week during the fall, hopping on an airplane to go play an opponent for the team that I love, the game that I love the most. Absolutely great experience. The tradition there, the football culture there, the way the fans were so engaged. That USC Trojan community is so amazing, and I'm just so blessed to have been a part and still be a part of that.
Yeah, there's definitely like a certain just magic and allure around that program in particular. Were you highly recruited prospect out of high school?
I was not. I was mostly recruited by smaller schools. I didn't go to a school that really produced all that much football talent. And that's no excuse. You can be good playing anywhere. But SC was an uphill battle to play at. But I'm the kind of person that I like to take on the challenge, and I wanted to play at USC. So if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. Were you a preferred walk-on?
I did walk on preferred. So it's kind of a weird story. When I originally went to SC, I decided I wasn't going to play sports. I had transferred from another school where I had played football and thought I'll focus on my business degree, but that didn't last very long. I ran into a baseball coach there who I had trained with in high school, and he said, hey, we'll give you a spot on the baseball team without even trying out. I'm like, great. Ended up injuring my elbow. I was a pitcher, getting surgery on it, and then thought, all right, what can I do? And so I walked into the football office one day and I said, I want to play football. What are the tryouts? They told me when. tried out, made the team. Next thing I knew, it was my first season. They posted the travel roster. I had made it. And all of a sudden I'm being thrown into games and I'm like, wow, this really panned out nicely.
Dude, that's an unbelievable story. So you literally went there to play baseball, injured your elbow, just walked into the coach's office and just like tried out cold and made the team?
Almost. I mean, what's crazy is I wasn't even going to play baseball there. I bumped into a baseball coach who I trained with in high school who became part of the SC staff. And he was like, wait, you go to SC? And then he just gave me a spot on the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, that ended when I got injured. And then I thought, hey, I'll go play football since my arm, I can't throw with it anymore. So
I actually did going into my senior year of college, I did Tom House's pitching camp at SC.
that was the coach.
That really?
Yep.
Yeah. Dude, he's just that whole experience was amazing, and just like his level of knowledge is unbelievable. But it was so cool just to like be on the field and experience the campus. And that was the first time I'd experimented with weighted balls and everything like that. But such a like incredible mind for the game.
Oh yeah, he's incredibly smart. It was cool to play some baseball under him and train with him in high school and in college. So it's cool we both trained with him.
Yeah, seriously. And so did they like when you're walking on, I've heard that like with certain D1 programs, they might not even like give you gear or anything to make the team. Did they give you gear, or like what was that experience like?
So of course you're at the bottom of the totem pole. And you have to work for what you want. And so I didn't care how I was treated because I knew that I was going to try my hardest and get the best that I could get. I don't think I experienced anything like not getting equipment, except for, I guess, one thing. And I think this is something that, helped kind of elevate me on that totem pole was they didn't give any mouthpieces to the new walk-ons for the first practice, which was weird. And they set up the Oklahoma drill, which has been, banned now. And you see a lot of players who shy away from that drill because it's very contact heavy. And I was all about it. So I hopped on in without a mouthpiece, one of the starting linebackers, and laid a pretty good hit on him and got some cheers. And I can't prove it, but I think that earned me some respect and was kind of the start of me climbing that ladder to playing time.
So it sounds like your mindset in college was probably a differentiator for you.
I think so. I've always been one to work very hard and aggressively for what I want, because I understand that nobody's going to hand me anything. If I want something, I have to earn it myself. So, there's a lot of things where I'm never going to be the best person at it, but I won't let anybody outwork me. Yeah.
And you were saying that when you were playing in college, you were walking around like 295. Is that right?
I topped out at 293.2 pounds to be exact. And that was on my pro day.
That's incredible. So how different was just the training, lifestyle, dieting then compared to now? Because now you're walking around like 220, super lean, shredded. How different was it back then?
So back then, obviously, I was training a lot more, not just weight training, but a lot of cardio, technique training for the defensive line, watching a lot of film, passing my classes and whatnot. The lifting, of course, is a lot heavier and a lot more focused on football. A lot of explosive moves, a lot of power cleans and similar explosive movements. As far as eating, of course, I was getting my protein in, lots of protein shakes that were team provided, as well as ordering my own, eating all the meals I could. I wasn't tracking anything back then. I was just trying to be as big as possible. To be honest, I did want to hit 300 pounds, but no matter how much I ate, I just couldn't put it on. And then I know a question a lot of people ask me, so maybe people will think it when they hear this is, why would you want to put on all this weight and not just focus on muscle mass? And to answer that, it's that, you have to think about it this way. I'm a defensive lineman across from an offensive or two offensive linemen, and we're trying to take each other on. The bigger I am, the more mass there is for them to move. So if I'm bigger, I'm more of a challenge for them, and it puts me in a better position. And then, of course, mass moves mass. So the bigger I was, the stronger I would be.
Yeah. So you were just focused on pure mass in college. Did you guys have nutritionists or anything that talked to you about dietary choices? Because when I played baseball in college, they really didn't talk to us about nutrition. And sometimes I think about like if I knew about alcohol consumption, dieting, cooking my meals. I sometimes wonder if my career would have been different at all, but was anyone teaching you about nutrition or healthy eating habits or anything like that in school?
Yeah, we actually had a great
Mm,
nutritionist, and when I was trying to gain weight, I went to her and I explained my situation. Hey, I'm trying to gain weight. I want to get to 300 pounds, but I'm eating and eating and can't put on any more weight. And she knew what the issue was immediately. She's like, "All right, so you're trying to get strong, so I assume you're eating a ton of protein, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." She told me I'm probably over consuming protein and I need to get some more carbs in there
mm,
to, get in some easier calories and to stay hungrier since all that protein is very satiating. So, I hadn't looked too much into nutrition at that point, at least not into, how you have the different insulin spikes and hormone changes, carbs, protein, fats, like I know more about now. But I started eating, a lot more carbohydrates, incorporating more rice into my diet and whatnot, and my weight started to shoot up.
mm. Yeah. So you listened to her advice, ended up putting on the weight, had a great career. Is there a college football memory that like sticks out that you're the most proud of?
Yeah, I would have to say the first game that I ever played in, just
Mm,
because it was such a dream to play for USC. And, I had prepped so hard and was dedicating my life to being the best football player
mm,
that I could be. And I had unfortunately injured myself in fall camp. And so, that just wrecked me mentally. And then I get healthy for the first game or the third game of that season, of my first game where I was active, and I get put into the game and go in first play, break through the offensive line. Quarterback ends up scrambling, uh, gets nailed by one of our linebackers because
mm.
he's distracted with me chasing him, fumbles the ball, we recover it, and so I was like just so jacked up on adrenaline and to go in and make an impact on my
Yeah.
first play. And Coach Lane Kiffin had me break down the team at the end of his post game talk to the team, and so that was just like the coolest thing I guess that happened to me football wise. It's almost like you can't even write something that good. Somebody who dreamed of playing at this university gets put into a game at the Coliseum. Makes a nice play, gets to break down the team, the whole 1, 2, 3 team Trojans, whatever we
Yeah.
said. So, yeah, that was awesome.
Dude, I can't even imagine how good that must have felt in the adrenaline after that
I
experience.
mean, I'm getting the chills thinking
Just
about it
just
now.
thinking about it and thinking that you were like potentially going to play baseball, then you end up making the team, and then you like come in and have an impact like that.
Yeah,
It's
it
so
was it
cool.
was sweet.
Yeah. And so you graduate 2012. Did you go into finance like right after you're done playing football?
So after I graduated, I actually went into grad school, did that a year and a half. And then I tried to go as far as I could professionally in football. So didn't have too much interest from the NFL, had some interest from the CFL. And then a lot of teams in like, those those indoor leagues were talking to me. And I thought, I'll take whatever path I can get to keep playing. So I did a little bit of that. And then after about a year of going that avenue, I just had to be real with myself and was like, I've given it my best effort and I've made it a lot farther than I think that I had initially thought that I'd make it to, and realized that that level of competition, I felt like I was starting to fall behind no
Mm.
matter how much work that I put in, the higher up I went, and thought, I have 2 degrees from an amazing university. It's time to put them to good use and get out into the corporate world.
Yeah. How was that transition from, playing football at one of the highest levels to then kind of getting spit out into an office job? I know a lot of athletes struggle with it. What was that like for you?
Psychologically, it was very tough,
Yeah.
because when you're a football player at a big time university, you're treated like royalty everywhere you go. So it's pretty nice. And then, given that I was blessed with so much size, even going out into the corporate world, people were always asking, like, especially because I was young, still very large, about what sports I played. They could tell. So still treated pretty good from people realizing I'm an athlete, and I guess people just being respectful overall. But psychologically, just realizing like, hey, you were in a real cool place, living your dream. Now, kind of doing what everyone else is doing, which it's not a bad thing, but it's a big change.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of friends that I think struggled similarly because it's a big lifestyle change.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it did put me on a good path, and I learned so much playing football and had so many experiences, which really prepped me for the non-football world. And I think or not think, I know that's helped me be successful today out, in a different world.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like you're so grateful for those experiences because they've shaped you into the man that you are and why you've had a lot of success at a young age. And then there's like this, I think, purity that comes from playing sports at a high level with your best friends. You're around them, 40, 60 plus hours a week. And I think for me, because I transitioned from playing college baseball to going into tech sales, I think maybe I thought I could get that purity of competition, and there you definitely can push yourself and get that competitiveness, but just that feeling of just competing for that mission with your teammates, it's really tough to replicate that. I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really replicate it. I know in the corporate world, people try and make these like analogies, and you'll see like a PowerPoint of Michael Jordan and some quote, and like, yeah, sure, it's like can be motivating, I guess, but then in a way, it's like it makes you think back to your athletic days, and it's like, okay, these are just two, totally different avenues, totally different ways of
Yeah.
life, and it's kind of funny. But yeah, you're right. It is a lot different. There is the sense of competition and drive, but it can't be replicated.
Definitely. So what was the weight loss transformation like for you to go from 293 down to 220, which you are now?
So it was a lot of fun, and it was very educational. So as I was playing football at USC, I started to get a lot more into nutrition and into fitness, trying to be the best athlete that I could. But I was also thinking about the long term. After football, I knew my diet, I knew my training would have to transition. So I wanted to prep myself with as much knowledge as I could. And one day I came across this thing called the ketogenic diet.
Mm.
It was either on a website, the bodybuilding.com forums, or there's another forum, Anabolic Minds. Might have been that one. I can't quite remember. But I read about this thing, keto. And, it sounds like too good to be true. And then I'm reading more about it, and I'm seeing steak, eggs, bacon, butter, like, having a cheeseburger, but taking away the buns and wrapping it with lettuce, maybe add a little bit of ranch if you wanted to. And I'm like, wait a second, I can lose weight eating these foods that I would much rather eat anyways than, all the other stuff out there. I got to try this when I'm done playing football. So my football career ended. I decided, okay, instead of going straight into keto and being too extreme, because I know a lot of people fail when they just try and like, turn on a switch like that. I first eliminated all simple carbs, so no like impulse candy bars at the 7-Eleven. Simple things like, okay, I'll have a meal with like brown rice or have some like quinoa or something. And then I started eliminating those. So it was like slow carb to low carb. And then I thought, okay, now that I'm getting used to cutting carbs out, I am going to go full keto, and I'm going to start tracking. And I used this app called MyFitnessPal. And I was reading, and I had read over the years that the first few weeks you might feel like absolute garbage. But I kept in mind that, hey, if you want something, it's not going to come easy. So I'm going to power through this no matter how bad I feel. Most people I read suffer for like 2 to 3 weeks when they first get into ketosis. It took me more like 5.
Oh, wow.
And, of course there's times where I'm just like, I want to quit because I don't feel good doing this. But I told myself, just wait till you get through to the other side and you'll feel great. So after 5 weeks, something just like clicks and my energy shoots way up. My hunger levels have evened out. The scale was dropping. Of course, there was the initial water weight loss, and then it continued to go down. And then it took about 1 year for me to lose 92 pounds. So from 293 all the way to 201 pounds. And then I thought, you know what? I can't get under 200. That is way too thin. It's 6'5". I've lost more muscle and strength than I would like. So let me start bulking back up with the long-term goal of keep my body fat low, but put back on as much of this muscle as possible so I could be lean, yet strong and muscular.
Wow. So I didn't realize you got as low as 200 pounds.
Let's say 201. I don't want to say
No,
200.
201. We need that extra pound.
I weighed 201 pounds. Yeah, I remember getting on the scale being like, oh my goodness. And then started to increase my calorie intake there.
Awesome. It's so interesting how different everyone's transition is, because I know certain people that they latch onto a low carb diet and they immediately feel amazing. Like their energy levels are great. They start losing weight. Some people, it takes them a couple weeks. It sounds like in your case, it was 5 weeks to feel really good. Do you remember, like, during that 5 week transition, were you struggling more so with like cravings for other foods, or do you think your electrolyte levels were low and you didn't feel like you had that same pop with workouts? Do you remember what that was during that transition?
I mean, thinking back to it, I think it really was just transitioning and putting different fuel for my body to run off of that it wasn't used to. Electrolyte wise, I had read that I may have issues, so I was trying to make sure I got in proper electrolytes. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Could 100% say there. But I wouldn't say cravings were all too bad. I
Yeah.
would just say that the way I felt was really, just off. Like
Yeah.
I had that brain fog that some people speak about, where I would literally sometimes be in a conversation with someone and like couldn't even remember what they were saying. I was like so zoned out,
Yeah.
and it just like wasn't me. And I'm like thinking, oh my goodness, when is this gonna end? And when it did, things went beyond baseline. And I
Mm.
remember, being at work, past that 5 week point, being able to like hyper focus, go the whole day, not even need anything to eat, just get the task at hand done. And so yeah, I'm glad I stuck with it.
Yeah, because you look at the way that it's transformed your life. It's incredible.
Hmm.
And I feel like most people, they just don't give themselves the opportunity to really like compound that positive interest, where they're just constantly tinkering with different diets, cutting out sugar, working in sugar, et cetera, et cetera. And they never really get themselves anywhere, where it's like, if you just pick one good path from a nutrition perspective and just stick with it, it's like you can have the type of results that you've had.
Yeah, I think, one of the unfortunate things of today's society is that we're also used to being able to get exactly what we want on demand.
Yes.
And it is created a lot of impatience. If I wanted to get some food and drink right now, I could just pull out my phone, go on an app, order something right here. You want to get something from Amazon, you can have it in a day or two. So people are so used to getting instant gratification. So when it comes to trying to transform your diet, people, I think, just get impatient, and they don't want to do things that are hard.
Mm.
And I mean, they've kind of been conditioned, so it's kind of unfair to judge other people who have basically been told, hey, this is the way you're supposed to, and that you can live. And it's quite a change,
Mhm.
where if you want to do something significant in changing your body composition, that's going to take a lot of effort. You can't just order it off an app.
Definitely. Yeah, especially in a city like New York, right? We can pull our phones out, go on DoorDash, order literally any single type of delicious food, cooked in vegetable oil or whatever, processed additives, and have it delivered right there, right? It's a lot easier in the short term than, walking however far to Whole Foods, getting your groceries, bringing that home, cooking a meal, cleaning up afterwards. But it's literally like the energy that you invest in that process is like the exact energy that you're going to get back too. You can't replace it.
Yeah, exactly. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get down to 200, you're like 201.
Thank you.
201. You're like, all right, I want to put on a little bit more muscle mass. You get up to 220, which seems like it's a really good sustainable weight for you. What is like an average day of eating, or like food groups that you really enjoy that you're able to stay consistent to and have ultimately worked for you?
So, how much I eat in a day, or I guess the frequency I eat in a day, is going to depend on my activity levels, and that's usually going to be related to lifting. So, today wasn't a lifting day, for example. So, before I came here, all I've had today was a black coffee in which I put some coconut oil, which I don't always do, but I had some tasks I wanted to focus on and make sure the hunger stayed at bay. Put in an electrolyte supplement. And then I had a pound of steak with some avocado, and that's all I've had. I'll have one more meal today. So it's a non-lift day, so I'm going to have 2 meals. Now, if it were a lifting day, I lift early in the morning. So, I wake up around 4:40, maybe 5:15 if I got to bed a little too late, go in and lift while it's still dark. And
Hmm.
so I don't think it's usually the best practice to wait to have my first meal to the afternoon. My body wants its nutrients. Um, so on a lifting day, I'll have 3 meals, maybe a little bit more, calorie wise, given I've had more meals. And then, there may be some days where I'm getting like 20, 30,000 plus steps and think, you know what, let me eat some of these extra calories here
Yeah.
because it's not going to have a negative impact on me.
Mm.
As far as food groups, I mean, anyone that follows me on social media already knows steak and eggs, very animal-based diet. I like salmon, I like pork, chicken every now and then, some turkey here and there. But a lot of people do assume I'm carnivore. I would say I'm very close because I eat primarily animal-based foods, but I do like things like avocado. People might crucify me for this one. Some broccoli, some
Mhm.
cauliflower every now and
Yeah.
then, spinach. Think like green leafy vegetables. But yeah, that's basically the base of what I eat.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have this kind of template that's worked really well for you. On training days, you'll have 3 meals. When you're not training, you'll have 2 meals. You're getting a bunch of steps in. It's not like you're really fitting your diet into this very rigid box. And I've gotten crucified for that too, where like my story, like my carnivore healing story with my stomach, that helped. And I think that helped get us some attention. But now I'm at a point where my gut health is really good. I have a permeable gut. So like I'll throw in some vegetables, some fruit every once in a while, but I'm like still relatively like within that 100 carb or less threshold every single day. And that seems like that's similar to you and that works.
Yeah, I mean, my carbs I would say are lower a lot of times. Like, I think I've only had like 13.5 grams of carbs today. I have a tracker I've been using. That's why I'm
Yeah.
being so precise, OCD. But I mean, the 100 to 150 gram range is a lot lower than what the standard American is eating.
Hmm.
So even though not keto, it's still a low enough level of carbs to keep people feeling good and not feeling the consequences of eating, a higher carb
Yeah.
diet like a lot of people do. And yeah, that's generally a pretty good sweet spot. And when I consult people on nutrition who aren't looking to do keto, they're generally within that range, and it's done wonders for them.
Yeah. Do you still track a lot of your meals in the MyFitnessPal?
So I've been using this app Chronometer now
Okay.
because it links to different databases. I'm not sure if MyFitnessPal has made updates, but I just kind of got embedded into
Mm.
Chronometer, I guess. So I like them both. I had not tracked, I want to say around 8 or 9 months until this week, actually, just coincidentally.
Mm.
But it's something that I do like to use when I'm trying to lean out. But I'll even go, months at a time where I have no particular goal. I mean, I guess I'll call it maintenance, or I'm not really trying to lose or gain fat, but just, gain muscle and not overdo the calories too much. And I like to see the data, which provides me insight into what I can and can't do, and how it relates to different lifts and energy levels and whatnot.
Mm.
But yeah, I've done a lot of tracking over the years. I think my record was doing like over 500 straight days, and it's really helped me to learn about myself.
Wow. So 500 days straight. That's incredible.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone go that crazy on
Yeah.
it. It's just, I don't know, I got a little OCD with it.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're probably at a point now where like you can look at a plate of food and like roughly estimate pretty accurately like the amount of calories and the macronutrients and things like that too. But it takes time to get to that level of intuitiveness.
Yeah, it does. It does take a lot of time, and I mean, even with all the experience I have, if I'm trying to get to sub 10% body fat, I'm going to track because knowing those exact numbers gets important. Because yeah, I can lose a ton of fat without tracking a single calorie, but I want to ensure that I'm getting as much protein as I need without going over on calories as well. And so the best thing to do is just to throw it on into a tracker.
Yeah. So if you're trying to go for a goal of like say sub 10% or 9%, is there a specific caloric deficit that you're looking to hit every single day?
So I would say I'm probably going 500 plus. You know, I try not to go like too extreme if I'm doing things long term.
Mm.
But I mean, it really depends on what level of body fat I'm at, how I've been eating. There's been times where I've made it like a 250, 300 calorie deficit. There's been times like last summer, I decided I don't feel like doing this long cut. So I'm going to go, really fast and really hard. And to preface it, I'm not recommending anybody do this because if you don't have any, experience, and even if you do, you could be setting yourself up for something catastrophic. But I did a 7-day fast
Mm.
followed by 5 straight days of PSMF,
Mm.
protein sparing modified fast. and I lost like, I don't know, 12, 13, maybe 14 pounds, and I was already keto.
Yeah.
So I know I didn't lose that much water weight when I did that, and the weight stayed off for months. So I
Wow.
know I had, burned off a lot of fat doing that. And so the caloric deficit there was, uh, fasting for 7 days. It's in
Mm.
the thousands, but that's not something typical of what I do. But
Yeah.
just to like, give some insight into some of the extremes that I've done, and it's fun to experiment as well. The more experience you get.
It really is. What was the most challenging part about doing that fast?
I love eating, man.
I know.
And so like I've done a lot of fasts, generally between 24 and 72 hours.
Mm.
Done 4-day fasts, 5 days fasts. That was my first 7-day fast. And I actually didn't plan on going all 7 days. I just felt it was time to fast, thought I'd go a few days. Once I hit 5 days, I'm like, all right, I'll make it go all 7. I think day 6 was the toughest, where I was just getting these extreme like hunger pangs. I don't know if it was because of the fact I had been fasting for 6 days, or if I knew that 7 days was just a day away,
Mm.
and there was something in my subconscious, or maybe something even out in front that was making me hungry. But yeah, just loving to eat and, missing out on that enjoyment, even during times of the fast where my hunger was at bay. Like, I think eating's fun. I mean,
So
like
fun.
cooking up some steak and eggs and, just enjoying the taste of it. Like, taking that away for a week isn't the most fun thing in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. The longest I've ever done was earlier this year. I did a 96-hour fast of just water and
Nice.
electrolytes. And that was, I think I lost somewhere between like 8 to 10 pounds. And
Wow.
I noticed it like a clear difference before and after in terms of like my vascularity, the definition. And I felt like during that fast, I kept oscillating between just feeling so mentally sharp and having like a new relationship with food, and then just being like so hungry and cranky and irritable. And I know everyone has a different experience with fasting, where some people were like, it was the best experience or it was the worst experience. I just kept like oscillating back and forth, but it was still great. But I found myself on YouTube just like watching all these food porn videos and steak cooking videos and stuff, which is like the worst thing that you could be doing.
Yeah, I stayed away from watching any like food content other than what I saw on my Twitter feed. But that's interesting that you mentioned like oscillating, because yeah, there were these like times, where it's like you just feel like you're on a cloud. There's no hunger. You're in the zone. You get this like hit of euphoria or whatever. You're like, oh, this is great. I could go forever. And then like an hour later, you're like, I am going to punch the next person I see in the face if they look at me the wrong way.
Yeah, no, literally. I reached a point where in the office, I was like, it was like, I remember it was 2:00 and I'm like, I'm just done working for the day because I'm just so cranky and irritable and I have like no cognitive power at all. And then I wake up the next morning and I feel absolutely amazing after a night of sleep. So I don't know what that was, but I do think it's a worthwhile experience for anyone to try for a number of different reasons.
Yeah, I do think so as well. And like you had mentioned, an extended fast really does help people to reevaluate their relationship with food, which I think that's important nowadays with all of the food-related illnesses and diseases that we're seeing. It's good for people to take a step back and have some type of realization.
Definitely. What do a lot of your training sessions look like? I feel like you're a big like heavyweight guy and you're consistent with it. Like, how many days a week are you lifting? Do you do cardio? What's work for you?
So generally, I only lift 3 times a week, but they are very intense sessions, and they are full body sessions. Now, maybe I've trained extremely hard for weeks on end and decide, hey, today I'm just going to do like upper body with dumbbells or something. But if we're to look at the program that I normally run, it's 3 full body workouts per week. And my focus is on compound movements, and I like to go heavy. So the base of my workouts is 5x5 style. But I will switch that up every once in a while. Like the last few weeks, I've been doing 3 sets of 10 on my squat, where I've kept bench at 5x5 for the most part. But I've also incorporated, like 3 sets of 10 of front squats. And then in the near future here, I'll go back to doing 5 sets of 5 and increase the weight on squat as well. But yeah, I focus on squat, bench press, deadlift, which is overrated, row, and overhead press.
And you're mostly training fasted in the morning too, right?
That's correct. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a black coffee before I lift, and of course, my 5 grams of creatine. Sometimes I'll put some, LMNT, the electrolyte supplement, in my coffee. I have some of that right now, um, just to have that extra boost and stay hydrated. But yeah, nothing solid. So yeah, I'd say fasted state.
Yeah. Do you ever experiment with trying to lift after a meal and notice the difference in your strength or the way that you feel during a session like that?
Sometimes I do, but that's normally when I'm traveling and on a different schedule. So, if I'm out on the West Coast, sometimes I'll lift later in the day, or I'll have eaten beforehand. Strength, I mean, I don't know how much the food is affecting it, but I have noticed that, training later in the day sometimes, like let's say it's a weekend, and I'm traveling and I decide to train at like 11 or 12, I
Mm.
feel stronger at that time. And I have read some research on how people generally are stronger on that time versus
Mhm.
right when they're waking up. But to be more efficient and to fit into my lifestyle, the best thing to do is to wake up before the sun rises, get that lift in, and be done for the day.
Yeah. No, I like that. I feel like you do a really good job of just finding this routine from a training perspective, nutrition perspective that really just works for you at all levels. And I think it's tough for a lot of newer people that are trying to make positive change to figure out where to start on social media, especially on Twitter, because it seems like diets are like very similar to religions. Everyone's got a different training schedule. Some people are like, train in the morning, don't train in the morning, train fasted, don't train fasted, eat carbs, don't eat carbs, where it seems like your approach has been you've just found the thing that's worked for you for years and you tinker and you iterate, but you just stay consistent. And most people just don't give themselves the opportunity to stay consistent.
Yeah, you nailed it there. Like, there's such an information overload nowadays that no matter what you do, you're going to be criticized. Oh, you shouldn't lift at this time. You should lift at that time. You should eat this at that time. You should cut out more of this macro and add in more of that macro. And you're going to have so many different opinions. And what's funny is, like, you see online, there's a whole bunch of super fit people with vastly different approaches, all arguing about what's best. And it's like, can you guys all just stop and look at each other for a minute? You're all in great shape. All of your methods work for you. So it's really up to the individual to find what fits his or her lifestyle, what works with their schedule. And then what you said, be consistent. If you just have a consistent approach in, how you're lifting and how you're eating, that's going to determine the bulk of your success. And then you can refine from there as you start to learn more and more about yourself.
Definitely. Yeah. Like I don't get the sense when I look at your Twitter that I don't get the sense that you're like ever telling anyone what to do. To me, it just seems like you're documenting your lifestyle and sharing your learnings. And it's like, look, if you resonate with my content, I'm here to help you and work with you, and I'll take on private clients and stuff like that. But if you want to experiment with carbohydrates or repeat or whatever, like I'm not telling you what to do. This is just what's worked for me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, of course, I have my own opinion on what may be best, or what kind of direction may be best. But I also acknowledge the fact that what I do isn't the best course of action for everybody to do. Like,
Yeah.
carbs are super controversial. But if I was still a football player, I would not be on a ketogenic diet. I'd be
Yeah.
eating a lot of carbs because I have a different lifestyle and different goals. And I've said it a lot of times on my social media that, yeah, what I do is insight into what I do and what works for me, and I'm sharing that for the people who are, interested.
Mm.
But I'm not telling people what to do. And it's kind of funny, like, I can list something like grass-fed and finished ribeye with pasture-raised eggs and grass-fed butter, and people will start attacking me for saying I'm telling people how to eat. And I'm like, I literally just listed the ingredients that made my meal. I don't know where you get the idea that I'm telling you to eat this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been kind of funny to see the reactions of me just sharing what works for me.
Yeah. No, it's such a good point. And a theme that we come back to on the show is Harry and I talk about the good, better, best model with meat that we learned from these ranchers in Lubbock, Texas called Holy Cow Beef. And they're all regenerative, grass finished.
Nice.
And the good, better, best is like all meat is good, even if it's outer aisle of the grocery store. Like even if you're just, your starting point are those cuts of meat, it's still better than anything in the outer, the inner aisle of the grocery store. And then better is getting to those like grass finished cuts of meat. And then best is a grass finished regenerative from a local farmer.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people think that they need to start at the best model. And for me, when I was sick with ulcerative colitis living in New York City, I was literally I didn't know anything about sourcing meat. So I was just buying the cheap budget cuts of meat from the outer aisle of the grocery store. And like that healed my stomach like 90% of the way there. So, I try and buy regenerative and source from local farms as much as I can. But to tell people that's where they need to start, that's like being disingenuous to my story because I didn't know anything about that, and just starting to like make better choices in the grocery store and iterating over time. That's what helped me heal.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's a great approach too. I mean, kind of same for me when I didn't know that much about the sourcing of meat and much of the difference of grass fed, grain fed. I'm young, trying to incorporate a new way of eating. All right, what steak's on sale? Where's the cheapest eggs? Let me get them. And I'm losing weight and feeling better. And yeah, a lot of people do get wrapped up in, oh, I need to optimize this,
Mm.
where it's not bad and good. It's like what you said. There's good, better, and best. So do with the best of your knowledge what you can do, and of course, getting some of these different meats might be more expensive
Mhm.
and could take a toll on some people. It's fine to go for the good rather than the better or the best.
Totally. What is your perspective now on, having pizza or cheat meals? I know you have a family and stuff like that. What's your balance between like trying to really stay on the path and also being a human being and having a family and things like that?
Yeah, so first and foremost, my priority is the health and happiness of my family. So if we're going to some kind of event together, I'm not going to like bring my own steak, or just not eat the food if it's inappropriate to do so. I'm going to enjoy myself. When it comes to cheat meals, I don't really feel the urge to cheat that much. I
Mm.
I do these carb ups where I'll have like a bunch of like sushi, or on my birthday I'll have some cheesecake. I do like
Yeah,
cheesecake,
cheesecakes are
but I
good.
don't really feel like the need to have like some delivery pizza, or like a pint of like sugary ice cream or something. But like a few weeks ago, my son and wife were uh, baking some sweets together, as mothers and sons do.
Mhm.
And my son had made me one and was very, proud and excited. I would be crazy to turn that down. And
Yeah.
so, of course, I ate it and told him how delicious it was, because it was delicious. And, I'm not going to let nutrition control my life.
Mhm.
The reason I want to eat healthy is so I can live a better life. And I'm not going to let that, flip flop and make it the controlling factor.
Definitely. No, I think that's such a good perspective. And it sounds like you really understand your relationship with food too. And, like when I come back to the Northeast, I love, New York pizza or New Jersey pizza. Like when I go out with my grandparents and my parents, we always go to this great pizzeria in South Jersey. And I'm like, I would be crazy to go to this dinner or not go because I'm afraid of eating this food. It's like, it's delicious. I'm going to enjoy one meal with my family. And then the next day, I'm just going to wake up and just get back to the foods that make me feel really good.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's the way to go. And the point a lot of people miss, I think, is that if you're consistently eating healthy,
Mhm.
you've primed your body to be this, well-oiled machine, so to speak,
Yeah.
that it should be tough enough to withstand going out and having, a meal that's totally carefree.
Yeah.
And if you're afraid that that's going to ruin something, then, maybe there's something wrong with your body or your mind. The human body is so resilient. It's okay to go off track and enjoy yourself every once in a while.
Yeah. To your point, it's almost like the message on Twitter should be resilience versus avoidance. And I
Mhm.
do think because, Twitter threads have gotten so popular and telling the stories about seed oils and processed foods. And I've definitely been guilty of this too, but it does seem like there's so many people that just have such a strong aversion to this thing where they're going to events with like steak and fruit in a Tupperware container, or like they're afraid to be on their cell phone. And it's like, guys, like perfection is not the goal here. Like at the end of the day, you're a human being living in 2024. You are going to get exposed to some toxins and you'll be okay.
Exactly. Like, it's good to avoid to the best of your ability, or what's the term? I mean, to avoid most of the time, but total avoidance, it's really not the way to go.
Yeah. So when you're working with a client and you're trying to like say you're taking someone that maybe wants to lose 30 pounds. They've never really gone low carb before. They kind of have been a byproduct of that standard American lifestyle. What are some of like the building blocks that you're talking to them about just to kind of like rewire their relationship with food and eating habits and things like that?
Yeah, so first of all, I understand when you change the way that you're eating, it can be very tough and you might get hit with a bunch of cravings and your hunger levels might even go up. So in the initial approach with my clients, when we take a review of what they've been eating and we start switching what they're going to eat, I tell them not to worry about how many calories that they're eating, but to get used to eating more of certain foods and cutting out other ones. And then from there, we can go to calorie reduction to start heading towards fat loss, because that's what most people tend to
Mm,
want nowadays is fat loss. So I'm not trying to take that extreme approach of we're automatically jumping into this deficit,
yeah.
turning your nutritional life on its head and going down this path, because that's the way that a lot of people are going to quit. So I
Mm,
like to set that foundation of healthy foods before we start getting more extreme
mm.
and then tweaking things. I'll take some feedback from there, speak to their hunger levels, look over they can export the data that I have them track in an app for me.
Mm.
We'll review that, talk about any challenges, and then we'll appropriately cut calories depending on their level of body fat and what their particular goals and timeline are.
Mm. So it's actually a really smart approach that you have where it's more like addition versus subtraction. So they don't feel like they're missing out on that much. But it's actually really smart because if you're having your clients prioritize like good quality protein sources, I would think that they'd be so satiated that they would want to eat less of the junk food, but they don't feel like they're fully missing out on it. That way, they're going to feel better from these foods, and they'll eventually develop that intuitiveness of like, okay, when I gravitate towards animal-based products, I'm going to feel really good. I don't even really want this junk food because it's not going to make me feel the way that the animal-based foods do.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've had situations where, somebody has told me that they are still hungry after dinner and they're used to having dessert every now and then.
Mhm.
But instead of having that ice cream cake or whatever, they'll just have another steak or like scramble up some eggs, and they're like, I feel a lot better. I don't get bloated, and then as time goes on, I'm noticing my appetite going down. And once you start removing, sugar and those hyper palatable foods from your diet, you start to crave them less.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's this it's like if you could just make it through that couple week block that you were talking about and just rewire that relationship, there's almost no going back. It's so hard to build that initial momentum, but then once you're in that phase of like cooking your meals for a couple weeks and you start losing weight and you're proud of what you see in the mirror and you just focus on how good you feel mentally and you're gaining that metabolic health, it's like you almost can't imagine another path outside of that too.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how, your palate and your mind are just like rewired. Like people will ask me, or, some people tell me, "Oh, you're so restrictive." And I'm thinking like, just because other people are so used to going and having this, sugar laden dessert at a restaurant doesn't mean that's what I want. I'm at the point now where like I literally don't want it. It does not look good to me.
Yeah.
And I'm on that different path that I don't think I can go back to unless I intentionally force myself to start eating junk that I don't want to
Yeah.
eat. And I guess, create an addiction for it.
Totally. Yeah, and you're also it's so intuitive where you're like, I'm eating a pound of ribeye or New York strip for dinner. That's like a king's meal. Like it tastes so much better.
Oh yeah,
Mm,
exactly. I mean, before I ate this way, if I looked at somebody eating the way I eat now, I'd be like, oh my goodness, like that's amazing. I mean, I remember
mm,
even joking around when I was a kid. I was staying at my aunt's place, and she's like, "Oh, what do you normally eat for breakfast every morning?" And I thought, what could I say that sounds like ridiculous and unrealistic? And I told her I eat steak and eggs every morning,
yeah.
and now it's kind of become an actual reality.
Yeah. I'm imagining I haven't looked at the comments too much. But I always see all your posts, but I get this. So I'm imagining you must get this with the pictures you post. Like just push back to like how expensive your grocery bill must be and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of people will mention it, and I really don't like to dig too much into the weeds there because I know finances can be a touchy
Mm,
subject with people. And so, I mean, I think if you're trying to eat healthy, there are, food items at different price points that anybody could work into their diet. Now, It might be more of a challenge for some than for others, but it's doable. Like getting a grass-fed and finished ribeye from a regenerative farm and pasture-raised soy corn-free eggs is going to be
Totally.
more expensive than getting some ground beef and the cheapest eggs you can find. But
Totally.
that goes back to the good, better, and best.
Yeah.
And sometimes I might go to the grocery store and see a sale on some of this ground beef and some of these eggs, and it's not the most pristine of quality, but
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, why don't I just load up on this and eat it? I still love it. It's still very enjoyable.
Definitely. Yeah, like the Whole Foods in Austin, like once a month, they'll do like this incredible sale. Well, they'll do like the pound of New York strips for like 15.99. And I just
Nice.
load up because I'm like, I know it's still good enough quality. It's going to satiate me. It tastes amazing. It's going to keep me on track. And I just load up. And I think too, like and you're definitely right about, if it's regenerative, corn and soy free, it definitely is more expensive. But then I do look at a lot of people's grocery carts at the store, and I'm like, if you just replace those foods with these animal products, like I guarantee you it's the animal-based products are a little bit cheaper, or it's at least like apples to apples equivalent.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. I think people do miss the point a lot when they're talking about these meals that, oh my gosh, that's way too expensive. Maybe in a vacuum, it looks that way. But if you look at what most people are spending their money on, like going out, purchasing alcohol, or even, with their groceries,
Totally.
if they're eating food that's not satiating, so then they have to go have more food or ordering takeout, it might be amounting to, near similar amounts. But of course, I can't know that without looking at someone's grocery bill,
Hmm.
just kind of taking a guess out there. But also, kind of cliche, speaking about an investment in your health. Like you see so many people nowadays on different prescriptions or going to the doctors so often. I'm blessed not to have any health issues, so
Yeah,
perhaps I spend more than most people on the food that I'm eating, but there's a lot of areas where I'm spending very little
far
to
less.
no money, and I feel great, which is, my health is very important to me. So I feel like I'm coming out ahead doing what I'm doing.
Totally, man. And similar to you, right? When I had ulcerative colitis, before I got off all the drugs and meds from going carnivore, those medications were $400,000 a year covered by insurance.
Oh,
And it's like,
wow.
I'm not on any of those drugs because of this diet. So no matter how much I'm spending on food, it's still way cheaper and a better lifestyle than just being on the conventional standard American diet and on all those drugs and meds.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, being in good health is such a great, blessing and experience. So anything I can do to contribute to that, I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Just like to have the health to, be a healthy young guy and walk 20,000 steps around New York City and like experience the sunshine and the skyscrapers. It's like a priceless investment.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, you see so many people that unfortunately either have neglected to take care of their health, or perhaps they don't know any better and can't be as active. But being in a city like New York with so many things to do
Mm.
and having a ton of energy and being healthy, like it's been such a great experience. Being able to go around and do everything that I want to do, with my family, create all these amazing memories and whatnot.
Yeah. With your son, how do you balance like wanting to teach him what you know about nutrition and also like give him the space to be a young kid as well too?
Well, I don't think my son should be eating the same way I am, because we're definitely at different points in our lives.
Mhm.
And, I've had some people give me a little pushback on that, like, oh, if you would do it, why wouldn't you have your son do it?
Yeah.
Like, listen, I'm not going to have my son go try and squat 3 plates for reps either. He's a toddler,
Yeah.
we're at different points in our lives and we require different things to develop. So of course the focus is going to be on him eating healthy, and I will post some of his meals online every once in a while. Last night I posted some wild caught sockeye salmon with
Mm.
some feta, and then some tomatoes that I had chopped up for him. But like, if he wants to go to a birthday party, I'm not gonna tell him he can't have the pizza and cake. I,
Yeah.
I, I will withhold soda though. That's
Mm.
that's one of the things I won't let him have is soda. But we give him sparkling water, which he loves. Just on a side note, I don't want him to go down that path.
Yeah.
But like, I'm reasonably lenient, I would say, his friends are hanging out at the park, and somebody wants to give him a lollipop. Is that one lollipop really going to have negative impacts on his health? Like, no, we're going to go home, we're going to brush his teeth, and he's going to be okay. And he's going to eat a dinner of whole natural food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're like you're like creating a great framework for him. You're letting him still be a kid. And then I'm sure also as he gets older, it's like from a parent perspective, I know there were so many things that my parents tried to teach me, but until I really like learned it and realized, hey, I'm eating these foods, this is how it's making me feel. It's like almost like he has to go through that experience himself and realize, okay, when I eat these foods, I feel like this. When I eat these foods that dad is telling me to eat, I actually feel really good too. Like there's like that intuitiveness that also needs to come, but you try and guide him as best as you can.
Yeah, guide him, set by example, and he's old enough now that he's talking. He's 3.5, and we can communicate very well. So like we'll be at the grocery store and we'll go buy the candy, and he'll not like purchase, like walk by it, and he'll be like, "Daddy, there's a candy, and I'm not going to eat that anymore because it's going to hurt my belly." Yeah. And then we'll play at the park, and we'll be walking home, and I'll ask him what he wants for dinner, and he'll make a comment like, "I want steak and eggs so I can be strong." So he's like understanding those concepts without me forcing things, upon him, but being reasonable.
Totally. Do you have him on the raw milk train yet?
I've let him try some raw milk, and even though I'm totally fine drinking it myself, like to be real, yes, I do understand that there is more risk associated with having raw milk. And, I grew up just drinking regular milk from the grocery store, and he absolutely loves milk. And, given that it has, protein and a bunch of nutrients to help you grow, I'm not going to have him be drinking all this raw milk. Even though I do think he would be fine, I'm going to limit that because, why not balance modern technology with primal intuitions, I'll say. Totally. So I do want to play it safe there.
Totally. Are you a big raw milk guy?
Oh yeah, I'm huge on it. I mean, I just ordered a whole bunch of raw milk and raw colostrum. I make my own kefir from raw milk. I just think being a lot older than my son, I can, withstand, God forbid, if there's anything to happen along the path of it coming from the farm to my place where it's contaminated, I'll be all right. I've never had anything happen. I don't think it would happen. But yeah, I love raw milk.
Yeah. Do you pick up or get deliveries from some of the Amish farms in Pennsylvania? Is that where you go?
Yeah. They ship out every like week or two from a couple farms in Pennsylvania. Sometimes when I'm driving through Pennsylvania, I'll make a point to go stop at a farm to pick things up as well.
Dude, their quality of food is incredible. I remember, the first time I ordered raw milk was from, I think it was Miller's Organic Farm in Pennsylvania. I was like, and it's to this day, it is by far the best raw milk I'd ever had. It's so creamy. So it tastes like a milkshake by itself.
Oh yeah, Miller's is great. Actually, my last order came from them. I love their product. I mean, that milk has that cream top on it. And like you said, it's like a milkshake itself. And so it's hard to stop drinking it at one glass.
That's the problem, is that it's so easy to get into a caloric surplus drinking it because you want to drink half a gallon at once.
Yeah, I'll measure it out so I can stay keto, and then I've experimented doing like a few raw milk fasts, thinking, okay, this way I can drink a ton of it without going over on my calories as well.
Yeah. If I want almost like a dessert coffee, I'll do like a dark cup of coffee. I'll take a little bit of raw cream and then our chocolate Noble protein powder and just blend that up. Dude, we got to get you some. I know I was texting you. We got to get you some of the chocolate Noble because it's like a divine dessert, and there's organs in there, beef protein, the raw cream, the caffeine from the coffee. It's like jet fuel to start your day off.
I'm like visualizing, imbibing that right now, and I'm salivating.
You might be 6'8" afterwards. Nice. Are you a colostrum guy too?
It's something I've recently learned more about. So my last order, I ordered 3 jars of it, and I'm actually going to put a new order in to come next week. So, with like new information out there, it's something that I don't want to just like dive on into and like, take the bait on without too much research.
Yeah.
I want to do some experimentation and see how I feel. when I drank, I think it was 8 fluid ounces for 3 straight days in a row. I mean, I felt amazing, but that's,
Mm,
I think, too short term to really make any judgments. And recently I've been locking in on a lot of things like I normally do. So I'm thinking, well, I already feel pretty great. I don't know how much greater I can
yeah.
feel, but it is something I'm going to continue to experiment with since it is so rich.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see how you feel if you experiment doing it for a long period of time. And it is an amazing product. I feel like Arma has commoditized it. So the colostrum powder, where people think like, oh, when I start taking this, it's like a magic pill where my hair is going to get thicker, my skin's going to get better, I'm going to lose weight. And I'm sure some of those things are true too, but it's just become like very commoditized from some of these colostrum powder brands. But I'm sure just drinking the raw source from a farm, it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense that it would. So,
Yeah.
I'll update people online as I
Yeah.
have more of it as to what my thoughts are.
Yeah. What's your biggest source of motivation right now? What motivates you the most with, the coaching, the social media? Like what's your biggest source of motivation just to keep going and putting out a great message into the world?
I mean, I'm a very competitive individual at my core, and I always want to put the best effort and have great results into things. So I've always
Mhm.
been a big fitness and nutrition guy. So like, I mean, when it comes to weightlifting and like physique, that's something where like, it can't just be handed to you. Like
Mm.
for people that have played sports, everyone's been in that situation where perhaps somebody else was a starter over them or got to play in a certain situation because maybe they were playing with the coach's son or the coach liked the other player for whatever reason. A lot of people, at jobs may have been passed up for a promotion or got turned down on a job interview for something they deserved and it was completely out of their control. So
Mm. Yeah, it's actually a good point. Fitness truly is one of the fairest pursuits in the world, where it's like outside of you having some type of like underlying chronic disease, if you put in the work from a nutrition, weightlifting perspective, it's like, your genetics are almost malleable to a certain extent, and
mhm.
anyone is entitled to have amazing health and a body and a physique that you're proud of.
Yeah, that's true, and I love that you brought up, like, genetics too, because I see some people bring up, "Oh, it's genetics, it's genetics, it's genetics." But, like, yeah, genetics do play a certain role. Like, I know there are some people I played football with
Hmm.
that no matter what I did, I wasn't ever gonna be as strong as them or as fast as them. But now, I'm not competing against anybody except for myself, so I'm not gonna say, "Oh, genetics are a limiting factor." I'm gonna do the best that I can do with my genetics, and then I'm gonna be, very proud of seeing results. So that's kind of the path that I'm going down.
Definitely. It's so easy to even look at something like, testosterone levels. Hey, I want to improve from a score of 400 to 800 because I want to get healthier. Like just to look at them as these arbitrary metrics. But it's so interesting, like just by improving your hormones or losing weight or getting stronger, like we're talking about, it really is just this gateway to become a better version of yourself. Like I'm sure the more in shape you've gotten and the healthier you've gotten, it's just going to make you a better dad, a better husband, better at your job. Like we're not talking about this stuff for the sake of like just being ripped and having six pack abs. Like, yes, that's a great byproduct, right? But the whole reason why we're talking about this is if you do the things that we're talking about, there's no way for you to not become a better person, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's that halo effect. Like, there's that misconception where people into fitness get stereotyped as these big, dumb meatheads when nothing could really be further from the truth. So, I have my program that I follow in the gym. I have a certain framework that I follow, the way that I eat, but it's not limited to the way I'm lifting weights and the way that I'm eating. I work within this structure as a parent, as a corporate professional in everything I do. I'm very, diligent and
Mm,
very organized and very driven. So it's more like, not just having this one aspect of my life that's the only thing I'm somewhat good at. It's that halo effect of, how I do this is how I do everything, which I
mm.
think is what his, or not think, I know it's led to, a lot of my success in other fields of my life and which has allowed me to set myself up for the opportunities that I've had.
100%, man. And again, you're someone that I've learned a lot from, Harry's learned a lot from. I think you have an amazing brand. I think you're The information you put out is super approachable. It's intelligent. It's easy to follow. And I think there needs to be more people in the health and wellness space that kind of replicate that approach, man. So, I just really appreciate you being willing to do this podcast. I'm glad that we got to meet finally. Definitely need to get you some Noble too. So we'll make that happen.
Nice.
And dude, I just, appreciate you and a lot of the work that you're doing right now.
Of course, Brett, really appreciate the kind words. Means a lot. And yeah, wishing you and everyone who watches this the best of health and the most of gains.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
All right.